welcome to another rally show with me, Bob Irvin. And as usual, I'd like to start by thanking the advertiser, James Gibb, from 5 Star Vehicle Delivery. Thank you very much, James. So we've got a bit of rallying royalty here today. We've got Jimmy McRae. And I've got to admit, Jim's a bit of a hero of mine, so it's quite excited about today. We've had massive problems getting onto this bloody machine because the two of us are old and we didn't know how to do it. So we're here now. So thanks for coming on, Jim.
I know it's my age, but it shouldn't be your age.
Jim, do you know it's 50 years since you've started rallying? Couldn't believe that when I seen that.
That's right. Next year, 74 I started.
Was it? I had you down as the 72 Harkle, your first event.
No, 74. I bought the car early tanker strike, and there was all motorsport and things like that were all cancelled. But whenever the strike was over and it started, it was the year the Granite City was cancelled because of the strike. But then what do you call the place? It took over. Anyway, my first rally was up on the city Granite City stages.
All right, okay, up the Grampian, right, okay.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, so your first event was 74 then. So how did you get into the sport, Jimmy?
70. Basically, my wife's fault because I was going to buy another scrambler, another motocross bike, and she hated bikes and she didn't like bikes. But I had been off the bikes for a couple of years because I bought a business in Lanark, and I didn't obviously want to get injured. And it was her that said, "Oh, why don't you try some rallying?" And there was a friend of ours, Tom Clark, had started rallying. I knew Alan O'Neill I knew he was rallying, and I decided then to maybe have a go. Alan O'Neill says, "Come and co-drive for me and you'll get the idea what it's all about." But I went down with him one night and he was out testing the car around about Hamilton and East Kilbride and that. And I vowed then that if I ever sat in a rally car, I would never sit in the passenger seat. So that's basically how it started. And he had a 1200 four-door Cortina with a Lotus engine and gearbox in it, because he had written off the Lotus car and he had just put all the Lotus stuff into this four-door 12. I bought it before the petrol tanker strike. So we actually had it in the garage and I got a bit of help and stripped the thing down and rebuilt it. And whenever the petrol tanker strike was over, we started rallying with it. And it was their Bro stages that took over the forestry stages from the Granite. Went up and did that. My first ever rally, we finished 11th overall with that car. And a fortnight later, I went down and did the border counties and I finished 5th. And I thought, bloody hell, I'm quite good at this. So I should stick at it and forget about the new bike that I bought. I sent it back to Edgar's in Edinburgh. I said, look, I've decided I'm not scrambling anymore. I'm going rallying. And that's how it all started.
So why did you change from the Escort to the Magnum? Was it something to do with SMT?
Well, after I had done the two events with that Cortina, Alan O'Neill was selling. He had bought a twin cam Escort, but then he was going to go to a BDA. So I said I would buy his twin cam Escort because I knew it had just a new engine and everything in it, and I sold that the Mark 1 twin cam Escort, and well, I went on the rest of the year, and I think my fourth ever rally was the Burma Rally, which was an international event. And initially, it was Lanarkshire Car Club, and I was in Lanarkshire Car Club, and they wouldn't give me an entry. They said, "Oh, you need another signature and your licence." So I went down and did the Barrow and Furnace Festival stages with the S. So that was the first event I did with the twin cam. to Tony Pond. Tony Pond was up with an Ascona using it as a practice. And I think we finished either second or third overall anyway. And I phoned Ian Muir, who was the clerk of the course for Burma. I said, look, I finished, I think it was second or third down. I finished this rally second or third. It's okay. You'll definitely get an entry in the Burma Rally. I went into the Burma Rally. I had never driven in the dark before, not in the forest. I borrowed a complete set of CB lights. And Tom says, oh, these are great things. They turn night into day. And so, of course, that rally started in the dark at midnight. And after, I think we did a look at 3 stages and come out of the forest. And Tom Clark was there. I said, well, I'll tell you one thing, if you think that turns night into day, there's something wrong with you, because it doesn't do it for me. But I mean, I was obviously, I had got to grips with it. A load of cars off that night. And I thought, well, if we just keep going steady here, we'll get a good result. And at the end of it, I finished 8th overall in the first 1600. And I can always remember that the prize given that night, Ian Muir, who co-drove for me later on in life for the first in class 1600. I can always remember when I walked away from the stage, he said, I think we're going to see a bit more of this man. And I thought, oh, and that's that. Yeah, that's how it all happened.
I mean, those stages are testing as it is, never mind at night. The stages
at night. And the first time, I mean, I had gone out round the roads here, annoying the neighbours at night with the lights on just to see what it was like. But once you get into the forest and it was a wet night and it was misty, and I got to the end of the stage, I thought, bloody hell, we'll be nowhere there. But probably had a really good time. And I think it was 3 stages you did in the loop before you come back out onto the road again. But, that's how it all happened.
So how did the SMT deal come about, Jimmy, the Magnum?
I was I went on with the twin cam escort, and that year I won the Challengers, yes. Newcomer. I won the Challengers, the Scottish Rally Challengers, and I thought, right, I need to get something a bit better. And I tried to buy a BD escort, Mark II escort, but the deal fell through, and the way it all happened, I thought. Then David Porter, who was the boss at SMT, he came to me, why wouldn't you drive a Vauxhall? I said, well, they're not competitive. But then he talked me into it, and I thought, well, if I drive something like that, I'll be noticed a bit more. If you're in amongst Donald Heggie and Gallagher and all these places, well, a bit more difficult. So they arranged that I bought a standard Magnum road car, and they converted it to a Group 1 car. And that's basically how it happened. And, within a year after that, I had a semi-works drive between the sponsorship we had from SMT and a drive from DTV. So within 2.5 years of starting rallying, it wasn't a paid drive, but all expenses were paid. I think it was the correct choice at the time, to go the Vauxhall route. Although people like Drew Gallagher and that said, "What are you driving that way? You're stupid," blah blah blah. Well, we'll wait and see. But that's how it happened.
That's how I met. Reliable car, Jim, the Magnum, is it quite reliable?
They're good cars, but they don't handle anything like an Escort. They're a handful compared with an Escort, and these, especially in Group 1, and these they just didn't handle. And that fact, the first year I drove the Magnum. In fact, it was the second year the first year. I had only certain events, and the Scottish Championship wasn't in the programme, but I hired a Mark 1 RS2000 from a guy down at Kilmarnock. What was his name? Oh, I can't remember. but it wasn't a full spec Group 1 car. And I went up to do the Snowman, or was it the Grand Snowman? It was, with that car. And after 3 stages, I was leading. To come out the inside of the oil filter, the air filter went down through the carburetor, and it started. No, made a bit of a mess of the engine. But David Porter of SMT came to me after that, and he says, "Look, we've decided we're going to pay a wee bit of money to go rallying, but you can't drive anybody else's car." So that was it.
So when was your first big events, Jimmy, like the Welsh? Was that 76? Was it Circuit Island, stuff like that?
Well, the first big, I mean, the Burma at that point was equivalent. It was the equivalent of the Scottish then, because, well, there was Andrew Cowan, there was Billy Coleman, Andrew Cowan was doing it, Billy Coleman, Roger Clark, all these guys were doing that event. And to finish 8th among that lot, it was quite an achievement. But then the next major event I did was with the DTV SMT Magnum, and that was the Circuit of Ireland, I think, in 76. I think that's right. I think so. Yeah, 76 would be the first city major event.
You know, Jim, I'm just looking here that you did the Circuit, the Welsh and REC that year. No Scottish, is that right? That was the year it started in Ayr, sorry, the racecourse. Did you do that one?
No, I did that one, no. Right. I can't remember what happened there. I know I did, when we started in 70, well, started in 74, and in 75 I had my own car. Then in 76, I think I've got a note of them all somewhere, but
sorry. So let's move on then, Jim, to the Chevette. There's a big difference between the HS and the Magnum.
Aye, the Magnum, I pestered DTV to get a drive with the Group 2 Magnum. You know, that was a 16 valve engine, but they said no. That's we're going to. They promised me then that, you know, I would get the drive in the Chevette in 77.
Aye.
So therefore, no, 78, sorry. So the second year I was with the Magnum, the Group 1 Magnum, I wanted to get a couple of events with the Group 2 car, but they said, no, but if you hang on, you'll get the Chevette in 77. And, well, I can't remember the result in the national breakdown, but on the Circuit of Ireland, Penty Auricula was my teammate in the Circuit of Ireland, and I basically I led him right more or less from the start. Russell Brooks and all these guys were doing it, but Russell had an accident in the first stage, dropped a load of time. But the Stig Blomqvist, the Hannah Mikulas, Tony Pons and all that, they all had problems. And I led that rally right up to, I think it was about the third last stage. Then a valve seat in the engine broke up, and it went on to 3 cylinders. And it gradually, I think I had a minute and a half or 2 minutes, and Russell, who was obviously, then we were in 3 cylinders, was catching pretty fastly. So he actually got past us. But I think, you know, after that, DTV had a bit more, they accepted me a bit better after that I had led Penty Auricula, right, more or less right from the start, in the identical car to his. So that's too.
I've spoke to, I've interviewed Alex Stratty, Mike Nicholson and stuff, And they were talking about, you know, Penty. It was quite hard work, to say the least. Would you agree with that? Was he a bit of a tough teammate?
You shouldn't talk about the dead, but he was a terrible guy. The story that year, because I was beating him, the story is that he switched off the rev limiter in the car on a road section and drove it until it blew up. Because he couldn't be seen to be beaten by me. That's the story. Was there not a case that goes around?
Was there not a case that he demanded your engine?
Yes,
and he got it, and it broke down.
I think my dad had died, and I hadn't managed. I said I wouldn't be down until the night before the rally, late the night before the rally started. So when I went down there, they said that Auricula wanted to drive my car. He wanted to shake down my car. And he said it had a far better engine than his, and the bloody stupid mechanics changed the engine through the night from my car to his car. Well, I think about the fourth stage in the rally, his engine blew up, and I thought, yes, you beauty.
Too right, yeah.
But unfortunately, my engine went as well. That's when Vauxhall were banned from using the Lotus-headed engine, and they were using their own Vauxhall-headed engine, and the engines, they weren't as good with the Vauxhall head as they were with the Lotus head. But that was the type of guy that he was, and if I beat him in a stage or anything, what's the difference there? There must be a difference. You must be giving him better suspension and all this crap. No, he wasn't a nice guy.
No, I know. I've heard that. You're not alone, Jimmy. I mean, apparently the mechanics sometimes did nothing. They told him they'd fixed it, and they did nothing. And he said, that's much better now, you know. So we're talking about...
They would go underneath and rattle with a spanner against things. That's you. You've got the same setup as Jimmy has. I mean, it was the same setup as I had anyway, but just to keep him happy, they went underneath and rattled the bottom of the car.
So 79, you're still with the Chevette. What were your aspirations then? Was rallying everything to you? Was this the way forward for you? Was it your full-time career?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was getting paid by dealer team Vauxhall then, and I was looking, that was what I was going to do now. So if I didn't get a drive with Vauxhall, I was going to try and get a drive with somebody else. But bloody Penty as well. That year, they decided they didn't have the budget to run the two cars, and he had everybody knew he was going to forward to the Rothmans Mark II Escort, but he didn't tell Blydenstein, DTV, and because the story is he's going anyway. So no, but I said all right. But in the meantime, I had got Opel had come on the phone to me and said, "Look, we hear you might not have a drive with Vauxhall." So, and that's basically how the Opel came. But at the end of the day, bloody Auricula did have a contract with Ford to drive the Rothmans Escort, but he was hanging on just to wait. I think he would be trying to get the best money possible, and he was hanging on. So that's how the Opel drive came about. They heard that that there was a problem that both Auricula and I wouldn't be in the same team, and Auricula was staying with Vauxhall, and they said, look, we were going to run a car in the British Championship next year, and I think they were going to bring what's the German guy's name? Bring drive, then the drive's yours.
Right. Back to 79, that was you started up with Mike Nicholson. Now, I was texting Ian Grindrod today, and he
All
said,
right.
I said, have you got any questions I should ask Jimmy? He said, I have to ask you about saving Mike Nicholson from a prawn salesman.
Such a good rod. I will always say Nicholson, when he co-drove for me with Vauxhall, when Vauxhall said to me, you know, driver, Mike Nicholson was a salesman, and a fish company. What's the name of the famous prawns? Anyway, I always say to him, you know, I made his career. I got him from being a bloody prawn salesman to a works driving Vauxhall, then on to the boss of the racing team as well. But Mike doesn't like that when I remind him of it. But I've done it before at forums and that.
So 1980,
I used to say it wasn't that time.
Jimmy, 1980, you had, I don't know if you'd consider it your best win ever against Ari on the circuit in the Chevette.
Yes, I definitely, yeah.
That was incredible, eh?
No, it was that. I would say that's a favourite rally in my career. Was, you know, battling with Ari. I mean, for the whole event. I mean, I was, I think about the Thirteen Hill dip back up, and the actual steering get pulled out of my hand, and I ran up the bank, over the bank, and rolled into the field. But luckily, we landed in our wheels. And I shouted to Mike, I said, "Well, find the gate, find the gate." So the grass was wet, and I thought, bloody slicks and wet grass. However, managed to nurse it up to the gate. And as he opened the gate, Billy Coleman passed, and I could see his eyes yet looking to see me driving at this gate in the fields. And he almost went off at the next corner. There were big marks up the grass bank and such things as well. But then we went on. Billy led then, but then he had a mechanical problem, I think, Billy, at the finish up. Then Ari and I got, well, Ari led for quite a bit. So we both had offs early on, but as the event went on, I think we were no more than like 45 seconds apart for the last second half of the rally, and it was basically, it was flat out. And I can always, in the dark on the last night, on the Monday night, we had a big moment and a bump. You know, it was really, sideways. I thought this thing's going to roll. We're off here, but we managed to control it. And at the end of the stage, I turned around to Mike Nicholson. I says, "That's it. I think we were 27 seconds behind them." I said, "That's it." I said, "Settle for second." I said, "Either that, this is going to end up a ball of scrap." And as we drew up to the stop line, after I looked at the back of the Escort, I said, "Bloody hell, he's been off. He's been off." And we thought, well, and we sort of come up to the stop line, he was still there. I said, "It must have taken a minute off him." However, when we got to the stop line, we had actually started 2 minutes behind him. So we'd actually taken like 1:40 off him. Oh. And I thought, oh, yeah, beauty. So that was putting us in the lead by just over a minute. And with a real good go in the next stage, just to make sure that Ari hadn't something up his sleeve. But we took quite a bit of time off him because I don't think his car was handling properly. And from there on, back into Belfast, it was just kama. First circuit win, beating Ari Vatanen. You know, it was absolutely special, absolutely great.
It can't get any better than that.
No,
I remember Ari getting interviewed and he says, "What's going on, Ari? You know, how are you not catching him?" He says, he's just too good. You know, he's very unbelievable in these circuit lanes, you know. What an accolade for Ari Vatanen. And you got to remember, Ari Vatanen a year later won the World Championship, you know.
I know. Amazing.
But yeah, you also won the Ulster that year, didn't you? In the Castrol Rally in Wales.
That's right. Yes, aye.
So then you moved after 80. You moved on to the Skona, where now this was your first year being Grinrod.
Aye.
And Ian had another question for you. He said, "Ask Jimmy what Margaret's first impressions of Ian Grinrod were."
I was going to tell you that anyway, whether he'd asked or not. We were invited down to a forum at Blackburn or down there anyway, and Grinrod was going to be there. So I said to Margaret, "Come on, you come down. We'll go to the forum and the night in the hotel." And when in, she didn't know him, hadn't met him or anything. So we went in. We were a wee bit later than getting in, but sitting in the front row was Tony Pond and Ian. And I said, that guy there, I said, "That's Ian Grinrod." And she said, "Oh my God, he'd a leather easy hair. You're not letting him co-drive for you, are you?" I said, "Maybe not look the part, but I said, he's got the name of being a good co-driver, so I said, we'll take him on."
Right. Actually, I asked him out of all the drivers he sat beside, but when I interviewed him last week, who had the best relationship with. He said yourself.
I know we got on great. Ian can be. We used to. Well, it's still called Grumpy Grinrod. Who doesn't get. He can be quite a guy. One of the stories is I did a deal that year, the first year, with Ian. I did a deal to get a run in April Rally. I got sponsorship from Belgium, and the event gave us start money and hotels and all that. So we went down there and we did the recce. And the car came down to go into scrutineering, and you had to go over the start ramp to get, to have all your door numbers and that on the car before you go to scrutineering. Well, it was absolutely pouring rain. So we went up on the ramp. The guy said, "No, back." A right nasty guy. And this Belgian, we knew he was talking. No doors, no stickers, no ball, no. And just at that, a Belgian driver in a Porsche was sitting behind us, and he just turned past the ramp, went past the ramp, and passed into scrutineering, and he didn't have any stickers. No, well, Grinrod. But this time I was reversing back to go and see if we could do that. But Grinrod out of the car, he got hold of this guy who was 2 feet taller than Ian. And he said, "Belgian drivers in here with no stickers in the car." Then that's it. And just at that, the clerk of the course come up and they saw what was going on. He said, steady, Ian, not a problem. And you go. I said to Grinrod, I said, "We're here." No, thanks to the clerk of the course and thanks to everybody in Belgium. I said, "You're going to fall out with everybody." No, he was just an arsehole.
So 81, you did a few foreign rallies that year. You went to South Africa as well? The Castrol Rally,
no, we did quite a few that year, and it was mainly through efforts, my effort and Ian's as well. Getting in touch with the organisers, see if we could get deals, and if we had a couple of extra events from Opel, we'd have won the championship, the European Championship. Yeah. We were pipped at the post by German guy and another Opel Ascona. And the two events we did, the Halkidiki Rally and what other rally, we actually beat them in these events. Aye, Haspengouw, yeah.
Was it Jockey Klein, Jim, no?
No. What was his name?
German?
Aye, see me with names.
What car did he drive?
For Grinrod.
I should know this. Harold DeRue.
Well, whoever was the European national champion
that
year, we were running up to him.
Right. So
But again, that was all through a lot of personal contacts and getting these events. You know, Halkidiki and Cyprus. Where else did we go? Huntruck. Did we do Huntruck that year?
the Huntruck,
So,
aye.
aye. But if we had just then, you know, when Opal saw where we were, I mean, it was too late. If we managed to get a couple of events, in these days, you could score European points in the Circuit of Ireland, and I think some of the Irish and the Scottish, obviously, as well. So we gained our points there, but then we just needed to. We needed another one event in Europe. I think we could have won the European Championship.
You had a big accident that year, didn't you, in the Welsh, in the Schooner, 82? You've had some backup, haven't you?
In these days, you weren't allowed pace notes. You know, you couldn't do a recce. Mm-hmm. Well, in Epping, everybody knew Epping. All the guys down there knew Epping at the back of the hands. The first time through the stage, we would drop maybe 20 seconds to the fastest. Then the next time through the stage, we would be right up, more or less with them, you know, maybe 5 seconds slower. But then in the third stage, once I knew it, we quite often were quickest in the third run through the stages. But there was one bit that I could see it. Yeah, I know what it is as well. With the first time it came up, it was over some very slight crest over a hill. You know, like what would be a fifth gear corner nowadays. And we come up around there the first time, backed off, you know, from fifth into fourth. So that's much quicker. So the next time we did it, backed off in fifth gear over the crest. The third time, I felt we had really gone really well in the rest of the stage. This is quite near the end. I said, this will be flat out. Well, it wasn't flat out. And we went on the grass. It was sideways in the grass, and it rolled and slid along the grass and the roof. Then the windscreen came in, and we were getting covered in shit and mud. You know, luckily ended up in its wheels. I could hear Grinrod moaning and groaning, and the door was open. I thought, Ian, you all right? You all right, Ian? And it's just like fell out the door, you know. I thought, Jesus Christ, I've killed him. There's something wrong with him. And I got unbuckled and I went around. I said, come on, Ian, what's wrong with you? I've lost my fucking fags. I need a fag.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
I said, you all right? You all right? I just need a fag. Where are they? Because they disappeared out of the car with the roll with the before it. But I said, here they are. Here, have a cigarette.
Unbelievable. So you moved up to the Manta, Jimmy, in 83. You moved to the Manta. What did you... Was it much better than this Schooner?
As a tarmac car, it was better than the Ascona. But there was very little difference between it and the Ascona and the gravel, I felt. You know, I felt because it was that wee bit longer, I felt, you know, there wasn't the same advantage on gravel as there was on the tarmac.
Hey, you're the Manta. You felt the
Manta.
Aye.
Initially, I felt that, you know, I've been in the Ascona, but then, you know, the Manta developed a bit more, and really, you know, I would say the Manta would be the latest of the Mantas would be the best two-wheel drive car I drove.
I was just going to ask you if you preferred it to the Ascona, because I think Ian preferred the Ascona. I can't remember. I think it was Ascona the other way around.
When I went from the Chevette to the Ascona, you know, everybody said, Tony Pond and all these people, oh, Christ, you're going from the saloon car to the commercial, the Chevette. Mm-hmm. But the Ascona handled very well on gravel and tarmac. And when the Manta came along, I felt didn't get the same advantage in gravel as we did on tarmac. The Manta was a good tarmac car. But by that time, the later bit of the Manta, with its 4-wheel drive quarters and all that to contend with, and you went to all these rallies, and you basically you had to be the best of the 2-wheel drive.
Oh yeah.
So that was 3 if you were in the 4-wheel drive.
I mean, talking about 2-wheel drive, Jimmy, we're going on about. The Scottish. You mentioned the Quattro and the Scottish, obviously the 5 second places. Well, you never. I know Russell actually signed a deal to get a Quattro in '81, but it never come through, and he doesn't know to this day why. Well, not to this day, but he passed away. In his book, he doesn't know why he didn't get the Quattro. Were you not tempted to try and get a Quattro?
I never ever got the opportunity. The big problem I had was that Russell was lucky in he did, he had Andrews Heat backing with him, and he could go and get, there was a fair bit of money there, that helped the team. Whereas, I was dealer team Vauxhall initially, which was just dealer team Vauxhall. I finished up with a good backing from Shell, but nothing like the money that Russell could get. He could go to a team and say, I've got whatever amount here, give me a car. So I never really got the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke to Bagnall, who was in charge of Audi and Volkswagen at that time. Later on, he said, "Oh, so we thought about you, but we thought, And the fact that I never started in a rally car until I was 31 year old. Mm-hmm. So, and I was maybe three years older than Russell. I was the old guy that lot. Although I didn't have the years of experience that Pond had and Russell had, mm-hmm. And my age went a wee bit against me there. And I think if I had, I couldn't, but if I had done and shown the promise that I did show, I'm quite sure I could have maybe had a world championship drive out it.
No, yeah, I've said that for years. I've said that for years.
And what
back to the
event?
Sorry, Jim. I was going to say.
What event?
Carry on.
What events I did? I never really made a fool of myself. So, and I can always remember Walter Roll when we did the Acropolis rally, and Walter said to me, "This is going to be a tough event." I says, "Yeah." He says, "If you drive the way you drive in the Circuit of Ireland," he says, "you'll be in the podium at the end of this rally." He says, forget about the forget about the Swedes and the Finns. He says, they'll burn themselves out or they'll burn their cars out. He says, just you set yourself a pace. Well, at the halfway halt, we went Greece, come back to for an overnight halt, and I walked out the Parc Ferme with Walter, and I was third. Walter was leading, and I was third, and he put his arm around me, as I told you. And we held that third place right up until the last day, when a bloody multi-plug behind the dash had come out and lost all the electrics. And it was only through speaking to Alec, Alec and Ian were, Alex Sardee, they were at the end of the stage, and I was on the phone to him, on the radio to him, and we run a wire from the battery at the back through to the ignition, and one from the battery through to the fuel pump, and that's how we got out the stage. I think it was still finished. I'm not sure that Acropolis, I think it was fifth, maybe sixth, seventh. I can't remember.
I think you were eighth, Jimmy. Right, you mentioned Alex again. You mentioned Alex. Now, Alex has got a question for you as well, you see.
Oh, is he? Okay.
To ask you about getting stopped by the police at Kincardine Bridge.
No.
You don't mind that one?
No. I don't remember that.
No, I don't
I
know.
thought, I thought I was a perfectly good driver, never get stopped with the police.
Ah, right, okay.
Did I? Did I? Well,
Ah,
I
no
could be
worries.
right.
Anyway, you finished third in REC that year. That was your best result up to that point, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
But,
Aye.
and then sadly, Rothmans left the scene, didn't they? And you got AC Delco, thankfully, come in.
Well, that was the problem at the end of the Opel contract. AC Delco were pulling out, and although I had won the championship that year and beaten Russell, Russell had the obvious sponsorship from Andrews Heat for Hire. So, I mean, they said to me, unfortunately, we've got to go the Russell route because he's got the backing behind him and we don't have the big enough budget to have the two, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I'm quite glad I did get fired that year because it got me the drive with the Austin Rover with the Rothmans Metro. And, it was a year that I'm glad, I didn't miss.
If we could go back a year, Jimmy,
Sorry?
if we can go back a year, that year that Russell won the title in '85, what actually happened with the team orders in the circuit? And was it the Manx? The Ulster and the Manx?
No, it was the Scottish. I think it was.
Well, it was the tarmac events. You were allowed to win one, and did you know you didn't slow down or something on the Manx or something? And Russell made his mouth go, something like that.
Well, some of them, there was. I can remember that there was. Russell always said at the end, he says, "Well, we're equal with team orders. I had two and he had two or something." So, but to be honest, I was a bit pissed off at the time and understood where they were coming from. But I just said, "I said you don't trust your drivers. As a driver, you only drive as fast as you think is safe enough. So you're no one. I'm no one to retire. I would rather finish second to Russell than bin it." I said, "I'm sure Russell's the same. So leave it to us. Let us sort it out together." But these days, that was it. A team of orders, you didn't have a drive basically. I don't know whether at the end of the day, if decided no, bugger it, then forget it. We're just going to go and I don't know what would have happened. I don't know. I don't think we would have got fired, but you've just got to remember at the end of the day, these are the guys that are paying you, so you've got to do what you're told.
It's tough to take. I know you've been asked this 1,000 times, Jimmy. What was your relationship with Russell like? Was it strange?
It wasn't near as bad as the press and that made out. I mean, it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was great because we were that close. Either way, but Russell had quite often a wee bit gripe at things as well, and maybe I did as well. I don't know, but no, it wasn't as bad. I mean, we'd still sit down and have a pint at the end of the rally or something like that. But I got on better with him certainly after I was his teammate. I mean, Russell didn't like. I was a new boy in the block when I started, and I was right up there with them and beating them. Well, he didn't like that, So there was a bit of friction at times.
Here's one of my questions for later on. Who's your best teammate, Jim? I mean, I remember seeing a thing on it's on YouTube. It's a thing that GM, I think DTV did it, you and Tony. And you seem to have a really good rapport with Tony, am I right?
With Tony Pond, I would have said that of all the guys that on that era and team, I got on very well with Tony, and we rallied against Tony in South Africa quite a bit. And Tony was he was the best of the lot,
I think so.
Yeah.
That's quite an admission. So 86, you're in the Metro. You've finally got four-wheel drive. Was it third? You finished third, didn't you, in the first one out, National Breakdown? And then
That's
the thing bloody blew up on the Scottish though. The one time,
all the bloody Metros blew up in the Scottish, you know.
Apart from Galanders.
That was me. I was thinking, oh, we've got four-wheel drive in the Scottish. We're definitely going to win it this year. Well, Tony retired first of all, and I thought, well, that's one out the way. But then my engine went later on as well. So,
what did you think of the 6R4, Jim? Did you love it?
I loved the car. Yeah, it was not the easiest thing to drive. To drive really quickly, it wasn't the easiest thing, but it was pretty rewarding. And well, it was the first real four-wheel drive car I had driven, and the traction and the braking I couldn't believe it. You know that time. And again, we'd have won the bloody championship that year if it hadn't been a cam belt that went on the last day. We weren't leading the rally, but we were second to Tony Pond, but Tony couldn't win the championship. And Russell was, well, quite a few minutes behind us. And on the last day, the guys said, right, guys, we want to get to the end here. Put the rev limiter back. The rev limiter in these days were at 9.5 or 10,000. And just drove. Well, he drove like an old granny, but at times we're still there. We were basically guaranteed the championship in '86, but then I think it's again about 3 stages from then. Come up a straight to square left. I can see the corner yet. Tight square left, down the gear, round the corner, accelerated away, and just as it accelerated, boom, just stopped. Drew into the side of the road. Well, the guys were actually sitting on the main road, which was only like 100 yards from the rally stage, and they run through the field to get to the car, opened the bonnet. We thought, if it's something electrical, then fix it. We could maybe still win this. But it was a cam belt. That was it. The rally was over. That was a disappointment, that one.
Really? Talking of the Metro, were you disappointed when Malcolm and Tony got the gig for the WRC? I mean, I personally think you were quicker than Malcolm at that stage.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed there. But again, bloody age. It was the age, you know. John Davenport admitted to me later on, you know, that I maybe made the wrong decision. I said, well, I think you did. But, and that's why when I went with David Richards, and well, we didn't even have the sponsorship then, David Richard Autosport, I spoke to John Davenport. He says, look, I'm going to try and do something for you, but it wouldn't be, we can maybe do something for the British Championship. And I said, well, David Richards Autosport, that was before ProDrive, David Richards Autosport would run the car for me. Well, David Richards had said to me, he and John Davenport didn't get on. And I thought, oh, bloody hell, here we go then. So anyway, John Davenport says, come down on Sunday, you and David Richards come to my house. So we went, and David Richards said then, he said, I can't see this happening. He says, because anyway, introduced each other and shook hands and sat down at the table and went through everything that what Richard Autosport could do and what I could do. I had a bit of money from Shell, and I could get Dunlop tyres and blah, blah, blah. So we've come away from, John Davenport said to me, I'll email, well, it wasn't email then, it was an email then. I'll come back. It was David Richards. Now David Richards was then dropping me off at the airport. And David says, I don't think this will happen. However, 10 o'clock on Monday morning, I got a phone call from David. I've just had notification from John Davenport to send a van down and a driver. There's a road car here, and the van will get filled with all the spares you need to put the car into, the rally specification, and that's how that all happened.
Fantastic, yeah.
And if they hadn't been banned that year, if they I think I would have had a drive in the World Championship the following year through David Richards and Rothmans and John Davenport. Well, British Leyland, Boston Roller.
I remember reading the Motor News, Jim, when after Group B was banned, and you said that you thought FISA were far too hasty. They shouldn't have done it. See, looking back, do you still agree, or was it just because of the position you were in at the time, you were kind of being a wee bit thinking of yourself,
I mean, it was because of the unfortunate accident with these cars. But the unfortunate accidents with the cars could have happened. Cars with lesser power. It was just, one was total driver error that went into the crowd.
Yep.
I mean, it could have happened with somebody back. It could have happened with somebody back in the field with a Vauxhall Magnum.
No, you're right.
Would have done the same damage. They certainly at the end they should have tightened up on the specification. The Lancia, built to be that light and bloody petrol tank below the driver's seats and all that kind of thing. They should have tightened up. They could have tightened up the specification quite a bit, but still kept Group B.
So anyway, 87, we went to Group A, and you come out in this land. I'm always wanting to know why the Lancia deal fell through, Jim. You were to drive a Lancia Group A, weren't you, to see that season?
Yeah, and it was just happened? Basically trying to deal with the Italians.
Right.
They promised, then the parts didn't come, and at the finish up, I drove that standard road car. I mean, at Lancia UK, I mean, they were keen, but I mean, all the parts and all the bits had to come from Italy, and that's why I got a company car, basic road car from them to do. RED did sump guards and suspension and all that on it, but it was basically a standard road car to do the national breakdown. But then, a couple of weeks later, still no parts, and I thought, there's not going to be a car for the Circuit of Ireland. If we miss the Circuit of Ireland, then I said to RED, I said, look, I'm going to go to Ford and see if we can get a car from Ford. And that was the same sort of thing. I went down to Ford. Look, this is a situation. I'm supposed to have a Lancia, but it's not happening. And they said right away, no problem. Get RED to send down a van for parts, and there's a road car here. You can have it. And that was like a fortnight before the Circuit of Ireland. And I never drove that. I never drove that car until I drove it into Scrutineering in the Circuit of Ireland.
You won.
And I won it, yeah. And I started the event. I thought, first day, you could do that in these days. You didn't need to go absolutely flat out from the start. I hadn't driven a turbo car before either. Although they had given me a loan of a road car, but it didn't have the same turbo lag as the rally car. When the rally car's got that many brake horsepower. But I can remember driving. The first stage was in the park and a public stage.
Yeah.
I thought, this is going to be hard work. We managed it, and it was quite a.
That turned out to be a great car, Jimmy.
Whether you know. Still got it, actually.
87 was a great year.
That car. The driver that went down, the transit van. The guy in the transit, 2 or 3 went down. I think the guy in the transit van waited to load all the spares the other guy drove the car up to RAD at Widnes, and he drove it into the yard at Widnes and reversed it against the garage door. Went in through the side door of the garage, and by the time he had got the roller door up, somebody stole the car. Two guys passing, jumped into it and away with it. And of course, I got a phone call from RAD. You're not going to believe this. Bloody car's been stolen. How did the car be stolen? And they explained what it was. And I thought, well, let's share a cause with. I can forget about it. But obviously, the guys who stole it didn't realise the value of the car. They used it to reverse ram raid a shop window and loaded the thing with TVs and drove off with it. And the car, I still thought then they'll set fire to it or whatever. But anyway, the police come on the phone to our lady and said, look, we found the car. It's in a scheme in Liverpool somewhere. And they thought, right, we'll go and see it. And the only mark that was on the car was across the big spoiler at the back where they had reversed it against the plate glass window. And in fact, the mark of that still on that car. So that, I mean, that delayed it another couple of days. And I thought, we're not going to get this car ready. But they worked their backside off RAD and got the car there. And as I say, I drove it to Scrutineer and that was it.
I mean, I must admit,
well, fairy tale ending to what was looked as though was going to be a total disaster.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a blessing that you didn't get the Lancia. I mean, you won Ypres that year.
That's right, yeah. With that car, aye.
Finished third. You got your reseeding on the REC.
That's right.
I must admit though, Jimmy, right, that was one of the most disappointing things for me was standing in Carroftry on the Tuesday morning with the Scottish and Llewellyn come through first. I was gutted. As a young laddie, I was gutted. Couldn't you believe it? Aye.
You know, clutching, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Aye, you had problems during the night and that, didn't you?
Nah.
Bloody night.
We were quite a bit in front of them. We clipped a tree stump and the stage before that, and sort of bent the arm. The car was all right. Well, it wasn't running square, but the boys were at the end of the stage. They changed the rear arm, and away we went. It was all right. It was still a minute and 2 minutes, a minute and a half in front of David. We got to the start of the stage. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Press the clutch, and the cable broke. And it was
everybody was devastated.
They pushed us back a bit, then pushed and I started it on the starter. Then once I got, but then David caught us on the stage. But that was another second place in the Scottish.
I mean, what was I going to say about the Ypres? You'd always had good results out there. Were you determined that was a rally you wanted to win?
Yeah, well, I think the first time we went there, everybody said, "Oh, it's disaster." The locals will blow you into the weeds and all that. Then I found out that, well, they're not blowing us into the weeds. Okay, they're quicker, and right from the start, they don't like a stranger. The locals don't like a stranger in amongst them, and I think they try a wee bit harder and they make mistakes. And if you just keep the thing right, then you can get the old girl to the end. Right?
That was some field that year. That year you won it, Jimmy. That was Bruno Sabe. I think you beat Drugman, Snyers, all these guys.
Aye, no. No, we had some cracking. A lot of people say, Ypres was all got some, fast straights and squares, but it's a difficult event to get right.
88, you won the Scottish, honestly. Fantastic. I mean, I remember we were at they changed it that year to the Garden Festival, didn't they? We couldn't get in to the end to see you coming through the fight.
Oh.
So it was like, I think it was something stupid, like 15 quid to get in or something like that. And me being a type 5, we had a chance. You got in free with a rally programme if you could prove you're with the rally, but we didn't have one.
never knew that.
break into the Garda Festival to get to see you, and we got there just as you come on the ramp. It was incredible. One of my also that year, I stayed in a top flat in Arbroath, and
all right.
I remember seeing in the streets of Belgium it said "Go Jimmy Go," so I thought I'm going to do a bit of that. So I get gloss paint, right, red gloss, and a big sheet for the bed. I went out to the back. I went to the back garden. It was all slabbed. It was communal area. Big letters. I put "Go Jimmy Go" with red gloss, right?
Uh-huh.
It went right through the bloody thing.
Oh,
I still wonder if today it's still there. Massive letters, red gloss. "Go Jimmy Go." But that was incredible that year seeing you win that.
I hope you paid the hotel for the bed sheet then.
No, that was a real monkey off your back. It must have got to the stage where you thought you weren't going to win it.
Yeah, no, it did, because, well, the year that we were second to Hannah Mikula, I mean, Hannah went off the first stage in the park. And you know, when I saw the video at the end of that, it was bloody Colton S. Car Club, my brother-in-law, Hugh Steele, that was kicking the wheels straight and telling them to go. I said, you bloody should have kept him in there for another minute. And we knew, I mean, I think Ian Grinrod worked out after the first 5 stages. He says, the time he's taking out is he'll get past us in the third last stage. What happened? And I drove my heart out. I thought, I wishing he would have had a puncture or something. And that's exactly what happened. You know, he just kept catching us, and I couldn't do anything about it. We were miles quicker than anybody other two-wheel drive car, but it didn't happen. So, well, that pipped at the post there, then we're pipped at the post with David Llewellyn.
Oh, no.
I mean, six times second, I think we were before I won it.
Even that year that you won it, you had Oriel. Sorry. I'm saying even that year you won it, you had bloody Oriel up your arse.
My what, sorry?
You had Oriel behind you that year you won it as well. So, you know, it was never easy.
Aye, that's right.
Right. Aye. So, Jimmy, which championship meant the most to you?
Always, you know, I think the first one, really, you know, because it was a new team, Opel. It was a strange car, you know, it had hardly been seen in the UK. It was the first one's always the best one, really.
Right. Okay. Another big disappointment for me. That you've given me so many disappointments, Jim. Honestly, you can't believe it. The Celica in that year's REC.
Yeah.
I really thought you could have done something.
So did I, but it was a big disappointment, that, because we thought the car was capable of winning, and I thought I was capable of winning, but and we found out that it was a complete and utter balls up with the guy that built the engine. The engine builder made a backside of it, basically. I can't remember, just something to do with pistons or gudgeon pins or something. I can't remember. But anyway.
Was that kind of depending on that result? Were you going to be driving the Celica and that Llewellyn got?
I had been promised a contract for the following year, but that deal was obviously brokered through RED, and RED had the car. Well, they're still trying to put the budget and everything together. Well, I think we're waiting. But then, I mean, Colin was coming on the scene then, and Ford phoned and said, you know, come and see them. We might be able to do a deal for 2 cars, one for you and a Group N car, or Group 1 it was at the time, for Colin. So I mean, I went back the Ford route there simply, because it was getting Colin involved with the works team.
So, we've only got one more year left, and then it's a few questions, Jim. So, 1989, you won the circuit again with Rob Arthur. Fourth on the Acropolis that year.
Yep.
That was a good result, starting at number 15 as well.
Aye, well, I had done a bit of testing for I can't remember just how it all came about. I'd been asked to go and do some testing for them. And I think because of what I did, they said, look, if we can run 2 cars in the Acropolis, we'll run Harry and we'll run you. So that was the deal. It was a good deal I had. And again, there, Harry was quicker, quite a bit quicker than me in the first day, but then I was probably thinking the Circuit of Ireland, just don't stick your neck out too much in the first day, and it worked really. And we'd have actually been third, I think, second or third. The brake pedal broke.
Oh, right.
They had modified the brake pedal, obviously for the balance bar. Right. And we had 2 stages, and I come out at one stage. I said, "There's something wrong with this brake pedal." And I went down. And I had to back off. I wasn't braking a lot, but then halfway through the stage, the brake pedal broke altogether, and we dropped. I can't remember the result. Aye.
You ended up fourth. You were surrounded by Lanciers, actually. Yeah, the top 3 was Lanciers, so it was some result you had, to be honest with you. And that year you had the fire on the Scottish. That was another one of my bloody major disappointments. Not as disappointed as you would have been, but
because we had won the Scottish, winning the Scottish the previous year, and think, no, we could maybe do it again, although there were more four-wheel drive cars. It was early on. The first, it was Blair Adam, I think.
It was Blair Adam.
Yeah, I think it went off song a wee bit, and I thought, oh, there's something wrong here. And the next thing, bloody smoke and flames going out the bonnet, and drew in, and that was it. I thought, well.
So that year, you won the Auto Blast Tour, and you had about a week after the Scottish, you had a huge accident in New Zealand, didn't you?
Aye, that's right. Aye.
Tell us about that.
I've forgotten about that. Aye, you forget about these ones.
Okay. Right, I've got some quick fire questions, Jimmy, and I'll let you get on. Quick, right, you ready? Best stage in the UK?
The best stage in the UK? It's got to be north of Perth.
Thomond Hill?
McRae.
Thomond Hill? Craigvinion?
No, Craigvinion. Right.
What's your favourite stage in the world? Is it still that? Because you've done a lot of abroad rallies.
Aye, that's a difficult one.
We'll move on.
There's quite a few favourite stages in Ireland. I don't think there's anyone that sticks out and would say was my absolute favourite.
So, is there any drives that you turned down, any sort of regrets that you wish you'd taken or anything like that?
I just wish I had started. Well, I probably couldn't afford it. But I just wish I had got the chance to start earlier, years earlier in rallying. If I think I would have made it into the World Championship.
I believe that.
And I think the rallies that were there then, a lot of them long, demanding events. I think I would have done pretty well.
What's your favourite surface? I know you've won the circuit 7 times. and the Manx and stuff. Is it tarmac you actually prefer?
I wouldn't say I prefer it, but initially with the Vauxhall, the Magnum, and the Chevy tarmac car, there was a gravel car. Maybe just down to my driving style, I don't know. So obviously, I was maybe initially, in the first few years, I was more comfortable in tar. But in saying that, there's nothing nicer than getting a stage like Grand Prix or any of these stages, right, when everything's going well. Really a lot of nice stages down in Wales as well.
Which car would you have in your garage? Which of your cars would you have back in your garage, if you could?
I would have the Metro 6R4.
Right, okay.
Unfortunately, the deal I did between David Richards and Austin Rover, John Davenport at the time, I should have said that I didn't win the championship anyway, but I would have said that, if we get good results with this car, I win the championship, I would like to keep that car, but I didn't. You're always a lot wiser after it.
Best teammate.
In saying that, the two Sierra Cosworths that I drove, I actually bought from Ford Motor Company, although I bought them at a really good price. And I sold one of them and basically got my money back for one of them. But, I've still got the other one here. And I'm glad that, lots of times I thought that, I could sell it. Well, it was originally sold. But then it was Colin that got the chance to buy it back, and he bought it back and said, that was my car. And I'm glad that that's come back into my ownership.
Okay, not including that Group N Lancia, what's the worst, the least favourite car you ever drove?
Worst? I don't know. I don't think. Just trying. Probably in South Africa, I drove the Mazda RX. Well, it wasn't a Mazda, it was a Mazda. What was the name of it? It was a Mazda with an RX engine in it. It was a difficult car to drive, and it wasn't the easiest thing. But other than that, probably if you look back, probably the first of the Magnums wasn't the best car to drive either.
I suppose if you jump, So, 2 more questions, Jim. When were you at your best? When were you in your pomp,
I don't think there was actually one year that I was absolutely at my best. I think, from I got the chance to drive the Group 4 car to Beco with Pond and Russell and later Roger Clark and all these people. I think once, I had a couple of years' experience with them, I would say probably the best years would be, 81 with the Manta, 82 with a Ascona, where I was getting the opportunity to put deals together to go in Ascona Manta time, I'll say.
Okay. Final question. You're having a dinner party for 4 rally people. Who would you have?
Well, Grindrod. We need to be Grindrod, obviously.
Definitely.
But the rest of them are probably, they've all passed away. I think it would go back to the original team, Alex Sardee and Ian Anderson. They were the guys that were there right from the start. It would be Ian and Alec, Ian Grindrod.
Okay. Right, Jim, that's us finished. Hope that wasn't too arduous for you.
Right.
Really appreciate your time. And
Good.
thank you very much for watching, everyone, on this week's rally show. Once again, a thanks to 5 Star Vehicle Delivery, and I'll see you all next time.